Betrayal doesn't always come with knives. Sometimes it comes with signatures and smiles. My name is Rachel Porter. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been so deeply trusted to carry the weight of something, only to realize they never planned on letting you hold the crown? Because I did. And it broke something sacred. It happened on a Wednesday, the kind of day that starts with black coffee and ends with blood in your gums from grinding your teeth too hard. We had just locked in a multi-million-dollar expansion deal. I'd worked on it for 4 straight weeks, no weekends, no nights off. I'd even missed my birthday dinner. All I wanted that morning was a little peace. Maybe even a thank you. Instead, I walked into the conference room and found my dad and my younger brother, Evan, shaking hands with our family attorney. They looked up like I'd interrupted something. Because I had. The contract. The announcement. The transfer. My father smiled at me, soft, practiced. Rachel, we were going to tell you. Evan didn't even look ashamed. He was glowing. The attorney handed him a thick envelope, sealed with our company crest. Congratulations, Evan. You're now the majority shareholder of Porter and Daughters. I blinked. Daughters. The irony punched me in the throat. I'd been working at the company since I was 19, built half its systems from scratch, landed the deal that took us global. And yet, no vote. No discussion. Just a decision made without me about everything I built. I asked one question. Why him? Dad gave that answer men like him always give when they can't say because he's a man. You've been incredible. But Evan has more leadership energy. Leadership energy. That's what he called my brother's LinkedIn posts and golf game. That's what they chose over my 80-hour weeks, 7 years of loyalty, and 2 near burnouts. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't beg. I just said, got it. Then I walked out. Not just from the boardroom, from the job, the house, the years of fake smiles. Because I knew something they didn't. I wasn't just the workhorse. I was the bridge between them and their biggest client, a woman who only trusted me. They gave Evan the crown, but they forgot who taught him how to hold it. People don't always raise children. Sometimes they raise successors. And sometimes only sons make the cut. Growing up in the Porter family wasn't loud with cruelty. It was quiet, soft-smiled, well-dressed, and deeply conditional. My brother, Evan, was the golden boy before he could even spell the word responsibility. If he brought home a C, it was because boys need freedom to explore. If I brought home an A-, I got the look. That tight-lipped smile from Mom. That slight headshake from Dad. You can do better. Our family business, Porter and Daughters, was supposed to be progressive. A woman's name in the title. A legacy built by my grandfather's belief in his own daughters. But when he passed, Dad took the reins. And from that day on, the Daughters part? It became ornamental. I was the one who stayed late. I was the one who handled damage control. When Dad had surgery, I ran the company. Quietly, efficiently, and didn't take a dime more than my salary. I thought that loyalty would mean something. It didn't. Evan, on the other hand, breezed through college with a finance degree and a fraternity resume. He worked at Porter and Daughters for 1.5 years before vanishing into some startup to get experience. He returned with a half-failed project, empty promises, and a trendy new haircut. And still, they welcomed him with confetti. Every failure's a step toward greatness, Dad said proudly. I once missed a marketing deadline by 2 hours because I was throwing up in a hospital bed with food poisoning. Mom called it unprofessional. When I started seeing the pattern, I told myself it was generational. That Dad didn't mean harm. That Mom was just scared I'd burn out. But deep down, I knew. They didn't see me as the heir. They saw me as the helper, the bridge, the cushion, the safe option. And I played the part for years. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I worked hard enough, they'd see me. They didn't. Not until I walked away. That first week after quitting, no one called. No texts. Not even to ask if I'd gotten home safely. It stung. But it also made one thing clear. I was never part of the legacy. Just the labor. So, I started planning. Not a tantrum. Not a breakdown. Just a quiet return of energy to its rightful owner. They took me for granted because I never asked for credit. Now I was done giving without cost. And the first thing I took back was my client. Some bridges aren't meant to be burned. Some are just meant to be walked away from because you already built a better one somewhere else. The client's name was Veronica Lane, CEO of Astra Lux Design and one of the sharpest women I'd ever met. She handled billion-dollar decisions in heels sharper than her legal team. And from the beginning, she only dealt with me. Not Dad. Not Evan. Me. When she signed with us 3 years ago, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're the only reason I'm here. So, if you ever leave, I leave too." I'd thought it was just a kind gesture back then. Turns out it was a warning. 3 days after walking out, I texted her. Nothing dramatic. Just, would love to catch up. Coffee on me. No business, just a human check-in. She replied within 5 minutes. You read my mind. Friday, 9:30. When I walked into that cafe, Veronica didn't say a word at first. She just looked at me, and something in her jaw tightened. Then she said, "They gave it to him, didn't they?" I nodded. No warning. No conversation. Just a transfer of power to the least qualified person in the room. She stirred her coffee like it was poison. They're idiots. Over the next hour, we didn't just catch up. We plotted. Turns out, Veronica wasn't the only client feeling uneasy with Porter and daughters. Since my departure, emails had gone unanswered. Reports had been late. Evan had tried to streamline their onboarding by cutting half the human touchpoints I'd built. He doesn't know how to listen, Veronica said. And your father's too proud to admit they lost their spine. I didn't gloat. I just offered a solution. If you ever decide to move your account, I'm happy to help you build something better. She raised a brow. Are you offering me a consulting package? I smiled. Not yet. But maybe soon. By the time I left that cafe, something had clicked. I didn't need revenge. I needed to become the thing they always feared I'd become. Independent. Unbothered. Unavailable. The next day, I got a call from another former client. Then another. A quiet ripple was forming. They weren't coming to me out of pity. They were coming to me because I was the reason they trusted my family's business to begin with. And now, they wanted me. I didn't say yes to any offers, not yet. Because first, I wanted to give my family one last chance. A test. A trap. A moment of silence loud enough to shake the whole boardroom. Sometimes the loudest revenge is complete silence. I didn't scream. I didn't expose them. I just disappeared and let gravity handle the rest. By Monday morning, Evan was already in trouble. He tried to jump into my role like it was a stage play. Emails bounced. Vendors complained. One of our longtime suppliers threatened to terminate their contract unless someone who actually understands this partnership called them. Spoiler alert. They meant me. Then came the client exodus. Not all at once. Not dramatic. Just subtle shifts. Phone calls not returned. Invoices delayed. Promises unmet. And then, on Thursday morning, Veronica Lane's formal withdrawal letter landed on their desk. She didn't even call. Just one icy email. Effective immediately, Astra Lux Design is terminating all contracts with Porter and daughters. Please forward remaining documentation to Rachel Porter's new firm. New firm. There was no firm. Not yet. But now that she'd said it, there would be. By noon, Dad's name popped up on my phone. I let it ring out. 5 minutes later, another call. Then a text. Dad, we need to talk. Urgent. I waited. Then typed. Me? I thought Sarah was the heir. Let her handle it. I hit send. Then I turned off my phone and went for a walk. That weekend, I filed for a business license. Small. Private. Just me. Porter Legacy Consulting. Not to compete. To liberate. Because I wasn't trying to destroy what they built. I was trying to stop pretending it ever included me. On Monday morning, their panic reached its peak. 3 more clients pulled out. One even cited An internal shift in strategic trust, which is corporate speak for, you lost the person we actually respected. They sent my mother to call. Her tone was syrupy sweet. The kind that always came before guilt trips. Sweetheart, you've made your point. Now come home. The company needs you. I said nothing. She sighed. Don't punish your family for one mistake. I finally spoke. It wasn't one mistake. It was a decision. One you were all proud of until the consequences started knocking. Then I hung up. The truth was, I didn't want the company back. I didn't want a seat at their table anymore. I was building my own. One client at a time. One contract with my name at the top. No more invisible labor. No more thankless loyalty. Just clean, earned respect. And the knowledge that every hour I worked now belonged to me. Sometimes the business doesn't collapse from the outside. It collapses when the one holding the roof walks away. By Friday, the cracks had widened. And Evan, heir to the empire, was unraveling. I heard from a former coworker that he tried to lead a pitch meeting and forgot the client's name halfway through. That he misquoted our numbers. That he asked someone to pull up Rachel's old file and got mad when no one could decode my system. Because I never needed one. I was the system. On Monday morning, a courier delivered something to my apartment. A crisp white envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from my father. Rachel, you have every right to be angry. I won't pretend we didn't make mistakes. But I built this business for my children. And I still want you in it. Come home. We'll talk. Love, Dad. For a moment, my hand trembled. But then I remembered something. A few months before I left, I found out Dad had secretly cashed out my shares to expand the business. Without asking. I'd let it slide. Because it's all for the family, right? So no. This wasn't a call to rebuild. It was a panic letter. Because without me, they were bleeding. And I was thriving. Veronica Lane officially signed on as my first client. Then came 2 smaller brands I'd helped years ago. The work was fulfilling, personal, transparent. Every email began with, "Hey Rachel," not "Dear Porter and Daughters." Every payment came directly to me. And the best part? I slept. 8 hours. No clenched jaw. No laptop glowing at 2 a.m. No calendar filled with other people's emergencies. Then came the twist I didn't expect. One of our old competitors, a firm Dad once laughed off, reached out. They'd heard about me. Heard clients were migrating. And they had a proposal. "We want you to lead a new division. Your name, your vision. We'll back you 100%. They offered equity. They offered autonomy. They offered something my family never did. Belief. I told them I'd think about it. Because while the offer was golden, I hadn't finished what I started yet. That night, I got one more message from Evan. No formalities. Just, "I messed up. I know. But I didn't ask for this. Dad gave it to me. I didn't want you gone." For the first time in months, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But pity doesn't change the fact that he took the crown and stayed silent when I was pushed out. So I replied with just one line. Then give it back. They say desperation breeds invention. But in my family, it bred apologies laced with strings. 2 days after Evan's late-night confession, I got a formal email from Porter and Daughters. Subject line: Emergency Board Meeting Request. They didn't even bother hiding the urgency. Attached were financial reports, red ink everywhere. 3 major clients had pulled out. Revenue down 47% in Q1. Supplier delays. Internal resignations. Even a pending lawsuit from a vendor over breach of contract. But the best part? The final note read, "All consultants formerly assigned by Rachel Porter must be replaced or rehired immediately." Funny how people you once called replaceable suddenly become the ones you can't function without. Then came the second email, this one from my father. Less formal, but still calculated. "We'd like to offer you a position as executive director with full authority. Your brother will step down. You will be compensated fairly, and your name will be restored on all documentation." I read it twice. Then 3 more times. Because finally, the crown was being held out to me, openly. But it wasn't an act of respect. It was an act of survival. I didn't reply. Instead, I printed the letter, folded it, and used it as a bookmark. Because this chapter was already closed. That week, I signed with the new firm. A fresh start. My own team. Equity. Trust. A corner office with my name on the door, not someone else's legacy wrapped around my neck. And the moment I signed the final page, my phone rang again. It was Mom. This time, her voice cracked. "Sweetheart, please. Your father's health isn't great. He's not sleeping. The company's falling apart." I paused. Let that silence stretch until it burned. Then said, "I gave you everything I had. For years. And when it was time to name a successor, you chose the boy who barely knew where the light switches were." She started to interrupt. I didn't let her. "You taught me that love comes with limits, conditions, performance. But here's what I learned on my own: respect doesn't." She cried. I didn't. Because I'd cried enough for 10 years. And I wasn't cruel. I was just done. That Friday, Porter and Daughters issued a public statement about restructuring. Clients saw through it. The damage was done. And while they were putting out fires, I was lighting my own lanterns. The most powerful part of success isn't what it buys. It's what it reveals. Who you are without them and who they are without you. It started slowly. A whisper here. A quiet mention there. "Did you hear Rachel Porter's consulting firm just on board Devolve Tech?" Wait, that Rachel Porter? Yeah. The one that used to run Porter and Daughters behind the scenes. My calendar filled faster than I could track. By the 3rd month, I had 6 full-time clients, a small team of 4 women I trusted like family, and a pipeline so steady even Forbes reached out for a spotlight piece. It wasn't just business. It was proof. Proof that all those years I'd spent unseen weren't a waste. I wasn't just good. I was essential. And then came the moment. The one that tasted like gold. An industry gala. Invitation only. I wasn't just invited. I was asked to speak. The topic? Legacy Reimagined. When the next generation builds better. I wore a navy suit. Minimal makeup. No loud accessories. Because when you're the story, you don't need the sparkle. I stood on stage in front of founders, CEOs, board members, many of whom once dismissed me as too emotional or too young. And I spoke clearly, without flinching. Sometimes, legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you survive. It's what you rebuild after being told you didn't belong. And sometimes it's what you create when you stop asking for permission. The applause lasted longer than I expected. I stepped down to dozens of handshakes, congratulations, requests for meetings. But only one face stopped me cold. Dad. Standing in the back, near the exit. No suit. Just a pale gray jacket and the look of a man who finally saw the cost of his choices. He didn't come over. He didn't wave. Just nodded once stiffly like maybe, just maybe, he realized he'd bet on the wrong child. Later that night, I got an email. No subject. No greeting. Just one sentence. "Your grandfather would have been proud." No signature. But I knew it was from Dad. I didn't reply. Because this was no longer about his approval. This was mine. At the after-party, I danced with my team, laughed freely, ate cake without guilt, and toasted to the version of me that once stayed quiet and finally learned how to speak with action. Closure isn't about slamming the door shut. Sometimes it's about leaving it open and choosing never to walk back in. A year passed. One morning, I opened my inbox and saw the subject line, "Request for mentorship." It was from a college junior named Brielle. She wrote, "I've followed your journey since the Forbes feature. I grew up watching my mom work for men who never saw her value. But when I read your quote, I stopped asking for space and started building my own table. It changed me." I teared up, not because of the praise, but because that girl, that was me. Years ago. Quiet. Overworked. Hoping someone would just notice. So I said yes. I met her for coffee the next week, listened to her pitch ideas, gave her tips on negotiating internships. And as I watched her scribble notes like her life depended on it, I realized this was legacy, not the name of a company, but the freedom to open doors for people who'd once stood where you stood. That night, I visited my parents' neighborhood, not to confront them, to remember. I sat across from the house, their porch dark, the driveway empty, and recalled all the late nights I stayed up finishing reports for Dad. All the mornings I coached Evan before meetings he never prepped for. I used to think I was foolish for doing so much. Now I know better. I wasn't foolish. I was loyal. And now, I was free. Before leaving, I slid a letter into their mailbox. No venom. No demands. Just truth. You raised a daughter who gave everything she had. You taught her that sacrifice meant silence. But she learned something else on her own. That silence isn't strength, voice is. And you no longer get to mute mine. I drove off. No dramatic music. Just the soft hum of peace in my chest. Today, my firm employs 14 women. Each one of them has a story. Some are single mothers. Some are first-generation college grads. Some were told they weren't leadership material. Now, they lead departments. They negotiate contracts bigger than anything Porter and daughters ever handled. And they do it under a banner that doesn't carry an old man's name. They do it under mine. Last month, I was offered a buyout. 8 figures. I smiled and declined. Because this isn't a business anymore. It's a boundary that turned into a blueprint. To anyone watching this who's ever been overlooked, you're not too much. You're not too emotional. You're not asking for too much space. You just need a new room. Or better yet, build one yourself. And if they laugh, let them. You'll be too busy building the future to hear them.